it'll say, oh, I don't even know who that lady is, but that was nice of her to say that. So thank you all for coming. Today's really not meant to be super long, but we really want to have a discussion about where we're going to go on our next couple of trips. And the benefit is everything we're doing this year so far, which is Fallingwater, Taliesin, and the Chicago Oak Park trip, are all trips that we've taken people on before. So there's nothing this year that we're learning with you. Like, we've actually gone to all of these. And what's going to be fun is we've sort of learned how to add some really interesting and cool stuff along the way. I have a little bit of a video that not a video, but there are some video elements to it. I'm going to go ahead and cover each trip sort of separately, and then come back and give the opportunity for you to ask any questions or to give some feedback, because some of you have been on these trips with us. So the first one is the very first one we have coming up. And I just have to make sure I'm properly sharing the right thing. I'm getting halfway decent with all this computerized stuff. So I'm trying, let's see, make sure I share.
Good for you.
I'm getting better at it. You know how it is? Like, you have so hopefully everyone sees a black screen with the words Fallingwater and more.
Yes.
April 22nd and 24th. Oh, it worked. So when we go to Fallingwater, we fly into the Pittsburgh airport, and here's the benefit. Now Mom and I fly in, Robin and I fly in. Some people drive in, or they fly. So you have the option, but this is the Airport Hyatt Regency, very nice hotel connected to the airport. So whether you drive and you can park there in the parking lot, or whether you fly, it's real easy to get in. And I don't know why it's bouncing back and forth. And then we have a great location there where we watch. We usually do a presentation and dinner. So here's a good example. We were watching a video about the Imperial Hotel, and I gave a presentation. Sometimes we have a guest speaker, but we always have a nice meal there, and great opportunity to see a lot of stuff. And then we go about, I don't know, Mom, how far is it? Is it like about an hour and a half down to the other hotel?
Oh, goodness.
I think it was about that. I don't remember how long it was on the bus.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. And we go down to the Hampton Inn and Suites, which is actually a really nice, it's a decent hotel. There's nothing deficit about it. The reason we don't stay at the Hyatt Regency is then we'd be almost 2 hours away from Fallingwater, and we'd rather just get that trip out of the way that night and then be rested the next day to go to our couple stops. So we always ride on a really nice bus. We never take more than 25 people, but these buses usually fit 55 to 60 people. So we always get to spread out. And I think Art and Juanita will tell you, it's always nice to have a bathroom on the bus, to have all those, that
Nice plus.
right? Good plus. And we spread out a little bit, so nobody has to be right on top of each other. We've decided not to take ever 50 people on a trip. First of all, I don't know that I could. I mean, I already talk a lot. I can't imagine if I had to talk to 50 people. And then our first trip the next day our first stop is at Polymath Park. Now, here's the cool thing about Polymath Park. It is literally, pardon me, it is literally a location where they have, oh, hey, Deb, hey. Polymath Park is where they have moved several Frank Lloyd Wright buildings. And you'll hear the awesome story about how they kind of accidentally got involved with several Frank Lloyd Wright buildings and a couple of apprentice houses as well. So there's 2 Frank Lloyd Wright houses there, and a really fantastic location. So I'm going to go back to sharing this so you can see, to give you an idea. Make sure I click share, right? And this is their little bus that they shuttle you around the 160-acre of Polymath Park. There's Deb. Look, she's getting off the bus there. And this is the Duncan House, which is a prefabricated house that Frank Lloyd Wright designed, and they did a bunch of, I think there's almost a dozen of them built. And great location sited there, and we get to do a full interior tour of the Duncan House, which I think is a really beautiful thing. Then we're going to go to the stepped up Usonian afterwards. After having lunch there and going through 2 houses, we also then get to go down the street about in 40 minutes to Kentuck Knob. And this is a house designed after Fallingwater by people who saw Fallingwater and said, oh my gosh, we love it. And it's a Usonian style of Frank Lloyd Wright architecture, meaning it's that democratic very open plan, but it's done for people that had a little more money. So it's sort of a higher end Usonian house, and you'll see from the amazing stonework, the copper roof, multiple fireplaces. This is one of those houses that has really, they've kind of gone all out. And if you could see this house from the other angle, it is amazing.
Ken, I've got earbuds in.
I'm sorry?
Oh, sorry.
You're all right. It's okay. And then of course, after those two spots, on Saturday, we have amazing dinner. And then we get up the next morning and we go to the granddaddy of them all, the one that we're all going for the reason, to Fallingwater, which of course is just, it's the reason so many of us are taking this trip. Definitely a bucket list item. I love the way this house connects with nature. I think those of you that have gotten to stand in this living room. Now, I don't remember exactly. I know Art and Juanita went with us. Vicky, yeah, I think, right?
Yeah,
several, Susan, okay.
Yeah.
You stood in that living room. Here's one of the benefits, the few benefits of, COVID times, is that they've cut down all of the size of their tour groups. So when I went here the first 2 or 3 times, they would put you with 30 people in the living room and you fill the whole living room. When we went last April and last August, literally there were like 8 of us in a group. So you get to explore that living room all by yourself. And as far as I can tell, Mom, I don't think they've announced any change to that yet. I don't think they're putting more people on the groups, right?
Excuse me.
So how fantastic is that? We're still going to have that great opportunity next month to be in a smaller group of people. So I think that's really marvelous that you get that freedom. And of course, I mean, like, we get to go inside, outside. I never tire of going there. And of course, we get to take the great picture. Now, I do, for those of you who haven't been with us on a trip yet, or haven't been to Fallingwater with us, I want to share with you Dottie's, and it should hopefully play the audio for you. So Dottie, you've just finished going through a bucket list item for you, Fallingwater. How have you enjoyed this trip with Architecture Travel Companion?
I've loved it. As an interpreter at the Frank Lloyd Wright Home and Studio, I love the whole Frank Lloyd Wright concept. But to actually be here at Fallingwater, oh my God, no, it had absolutely exceeded all expectations. And Architectural Travel Companions has incredible attention to detail, from all the things we did prior to Fallingwater, Polymath Park and the Usonian houses, to the food, the lodging, impeccable attention to detail. The whole trip's been quite wonderful.
Thank you for joining us, Dottie. So that's just one of our previous travelers. I mean, it's kind of great when somebody who normally gives guided tours at the home and studio says you did a good job. I mean, that makes me feel good, right? And it's also nice when you're taking somebody to a bucket list place where they're just that excited about going. So who has any questions about what the Fallingwater trip might entail? If you haven't gone with us yet, or wanted to know if that's the one on your list and you wanted to ask any questions, is there anyone that has a particular question about that one? The best way is for you just to unmute and ask the question, or maybe you can raise your hand and I'll see you, but I don't see any so far. Deb, you went with us last time, or I think or the time before, I don't remember which one it was. What was your, what did it mean to you to go? I think you were going back to Fallingwater, weren't you?
I was. I'd been there on a very quick run through many years ago. But this was amazing. And as you pointed out, the fact that we were such a small group and that the numbers inside the building were limited, it was like you were private residents. It was wonderful all the way through. It was better than you could ever expect.
You know, the other thing that we do, I think that Mom specifically picks restaurants when she's hungry, because because there were times that it was like, how much food can we possibly eat in this one place? I mean, like that one, and I think we're planning to go back to that Italian restaurant where the portions are the size of your head and your neighbor's head. They're enormous. I
That
mean,
was-
You never go hungry when you travel with Robin.
I think Art and Juanita were like, next time, just buy us one lunch
Yeah,
and we'll
yeah,
share.
we'll be happy to share.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
portions. Oh.
Okay, so that is the Fallingwater trip. And Mom, did you want to add anything specifically, since that's the one coming up? You've been working on that one more recently than any of the others.
No, everything will be as advertised. I mean,
The other benefit that we've done that twice now with groups, so it's a little bit easier, you know, you make the phone call to the hotel and it's sort of, hey, remember what we did last time? We're gonna do the same stuff. I think one of the nice things, I don't know how often people have been on, you know, a trip with 20 other people, but one of the really nice things is that, especially for that trip, for that hotel, we didn't want to split up 2 different nights in 2 different hotels, because it's really only a 2-night trip. It's 3 days, but only 2 nights. So it made more sense to go to the one place. Now we get there relatively late in the evening because we've had a presentation, we've eaten dinner, we got on the bus and rode, but they have it ready for us in advance. So there's no checking in at the front desk. It is literally, they walk up onto the bus and say, Art and Juanita, here's your room key, you know, Deb, here's your room key, Susan, Vicky, here you are. All of that gets done in advance. So it's all handled. There's a really nice breakfast there at the Hampton Inn, and they just treat us really well. I think they're just happy to have a group, you know, a good group of people there, and they're just very nice at that hotel.
very, very nice. Yeah, they're very nice, very accommodating.
Yeah, it was late when we got in and they still had nice warm cookies for us.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
And he loves cookies.
That's a good selling point, Art. I kind of forgot that, and now I'm glad you said that. And the breakfast is pretty nice. There's a decent space to have it. You know, it's funny. I always I'm not really a hotel snob. I don't really don't, as long as there's no bugs and the beds are relatively comfortable. But that's actually a little nicer hotel than I typically stay in. Now, I know people who stay in very nice hotels, so I'm not going to say it's a 5-star resort, but for a roadside hotel, which there are very few where we're in that part of southwestern Pennsylvania, it's a decent hotel to hang out in, and the walls aren't thin, paper thin, which is good. And, you know, the beds were comfortable. I thought they had pretty good water pressure and 2-ply toilet paper. So I thought those are always the things I look for. And the internet was quite strong, you know, so it worked out really well, because we're not really there very much. I mean, you got to consider, in just 2 full days of, you know, going Saturday and Sunday, we're going to see 2 Frank Lloyd Wright houses at one location, 2 Frank Lloyd Wright apprentice houses at the same location, at least drive by, if not go in them. We're going to go to a full Frank Lloyd Wright sort of estate that has an entire collection of art sculptures out in the woods. That's the Kentuck Knob House. It's, by the way, owned by a member of the British House of Lords, and the gentleman who was Princess Diana's personal financial advisor. That's kind of cool. And then, of course, we get to Fallingwater. So we have this huge, you know, we're packing a lot just into 2 days. All right, so if there aren't any more questions about that particular trip, I really want to, the next one's kind of good, because I know that not many of you have done this one with us yet. And so I'll go back to sharing my screen. And we'll skip over. So this is Taliesin and more. And when we say Taliesin, we mean Taliesin in Wisconsin, not Taliesin in Arizona. That's considered Taliesin West. So our first stop when we get there, we go to the Milwaukee, we fly into the Milwaukee airport. You're welcome, anyone can drive to it as well, or you can come a few days early, but we go to a hotel near the Milwaukee airport, do the same thing, get in that evening, do a presentation, have dinner, and then get up the next morning. Our first stop is typically the Burnham Block. These are American system-built houses that Frank Lloyd Wright designed in the teens. So in that period after the murders and before he went off to, oh, there's Art, by the way. Art, I got some video of you. You didn't notice. I don't know if you saw that. Here's,
Yeah, that was my
yourself
favorite
again,
stop.
walking out.
Yeah.
And there are
Yep.
There are 7 houses on this block that Wright designed. Most of them are duplexes. You'll see these 4 big duplexes. And then
I want to build those in Eustis.
I'm sorry.
I want to build those in Eustis.
Oh, I would love it. That would be
Wouldn't that be
fantastic.
nice?
And this is he did several different models, and this is the 1-story model. This one's been completely restored. Here's what I love about this. Some of the places we're going to go when we go to Taliesin and more, because we're going to start in Milwaukee, which is on the east side of Wisconsin. It's right on the Lake Michigan. We're going to stretch across the state and maybe see some stuff that not everybody would make the full trip and go to all these different places. So what I like about this is a little bit off the beaten path, and it's a smaller organization doing very important restoration work. And this house inside has been, well, I didn't put one of the other interior pictures. I'm jumping ahead. They've completely restored this 1-story house inside and out. The other houses are in the process of that, and they will eventually own every building on that block. So it's kind of a cool way to collect 6 or 7 Frank Lloyd Wright buildings all in one place. It's a pretty big deal. They own, I think, 4 of them now, and they rent out 2 of them to people to live in so they can generate income. And then we go after that to a very different, think how blocky and square these buildings are. Then we go to sort of the spaceship that's landing, right? And this is the Greek Annunciation, the Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church. Here's a picture of the actual day that we were there. And it is a fantastic, it's a strange, very unusual structure. And you'll see inside, it's quite intimate. What?
Yeah, there I am.
See, I made sure I included all of our people. And actually, I think over by the staircase across the other way, do any of those people look familiar to anyone?
Is that us?
I think it might be.
Looks like you. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's us.
Y'all were looking down into the sanctuary, or whatever they call that area. My brain has sort of lost what we were talking about, but this is a fascinating building, because when you're upstairs, Juanita, did you notice that downstairs it felt very small and intimate? And then when you got up here to this space, it just opens up huge. Just
Wow.
like this
Yes.
enormous space. And the entire ceiling is gold painted. This was a remarkable structure. And I think those of you who went on this trip with us might agree that maybe even the best part of this building was the tour guide.
Yes.
oh,
Very
yes, very
knowledgeable.
interesting.
Yeah,
Her
very
history, yes.
Yeah, so we're going to try to make sure we'll hopefully get her again, although it's always a member of the congregation who gives the tour. So I don't think we'll have any problem finding an amazing story, but if we can get her again, she was really, I mean, I had been here before, but she elevated it even more with her amazing stories. So it was really wonderful. Hey, Jack, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Tim.
Hi.
Sorry I'm late.
Oh, you're
Bob-
fine. I'm recording
Bomb
this
scare
anyway.
at
So,
the train station. I had to bail out.
I'm sorry, what?
Bomb scare at the train station. I had
What?
to bail out.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry to hear that.
So,
Chicago.
I don't know.
Well, we're glad you're here and you're safe.
yes, me too.
So we're covering our trip to Taliesin that'll be in June. But I am recording this, so if you wanted to watch the first part, you'd be welcome to go back and chat about it. And we'll have time for other questions in just a minute too, so that's good. All right, so yeah, our second trip is there, and then we head out to Spring Green. And one of the places that we visit is a really fun school, again, off the beaten path. You know, if you think of Taliesin and Fallingwater as being these big places in Frank Lloyd Wright land, what's really wonderful is seeing these places that most people don't stop and see, because either you have to arrange a special tour or you just don't know about them. I don't know how many I wrote a newsletter article about driving by this place 2 or 3 times before I realized, oh, that's probably Frank Lloyd Wright. You know, I probably should figure out how to stop and see it. And our last trip in last year was the first time I'd ever stopped. So the Wyoming Valley School is a really impressive structure. This is the interior. Again, I'm just keep pushing pictures of y'all in here. So you're just gonna have those of you who have gone with us. You'll see this amazing upper structure. This is a building designed by Frank Lloyd Wright pro bono. He literally did the design at no charge, and actually was so convinced it needed to be further back and set into the hill that he bought 2 extra acres, and so that the school could actually go, like, so he lost money on this project, so to speak, which is pretty impressive. And we usually do something like a small reception there. We stay at a really nice hotel. It's designed on Usonian principles by one of Wright's apprentices called the Spring Valley Inn, which is where we hope to stay this next time when we go. We did not stay last time there because they had a number of room nights you had to do, and there was some limited availability. And then of course we go out to Taliesin, which is 600 plus acres now. And you can see the house off in the corner. What I really like is that we always get we like to do, and this is important to know for Taliesin. Right now, we're still sticking with the 4-hour estate tour. Now, let me tell you why you would do a 4-hour tour instead of a 2-hour tour. Because they take you pretty much to the same places, you just have to go faster on a 2-hour tour. Well, if we get all the way there, I'd like to take some leisurely time and be able to have a seat, and relax for a minute. And they get, in the 4-hour tour, they give you cookies and a punch out on the lanai, and you get a little more leisurely experience. There is more walking involved. So if you go on this trip with us, we just want to make sure you know that you will need to walk a distance. And I'll show you what some of that will look like in a minute. We do get to see a bunch of buildings on the entire estate, including the Hillside Home School that Wright designed for his aunts, for their home, for their school that they had a what's the right word? Sleepaway school, or what do you call that? Boarding school?
Oh, yeah.
For boys and girls at the turn of the century, which is pretty impressive. And Frank Lloyd Wright himself used this for his fellowship. So they're renovating the theater now, but the hope is that by August or by June when we go, they'll actually have this reopened for us to be able to go in and see it. It's hard to tell how tall this is, but that space that's here, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but this huge curtain is actually something like almost 20 feet tall. And they tell a story once of Wright in his early 80s would get up very early, or late 80s would get up very early in the morning, sometimes up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And one time they found him on a ladder all the way at the top, like adding a piece of felt way at the top. And this is meant to be a sort of overhead view of what the land looks like out on his property. So, they're like, sir, you need to get off that ladder, as a 80-plus-year-old man up on the ladder. And of course, this is the theater where they would put on shows for visiting people. We also get to see, make sure the buttons work, the drafting studio where the fellowship worked when there was a school of architecture at the campus, and they have some other projects starting now with some other learning institutes. So maybe they'll actually have some people inside of it. Now, this is where some of the walking comes in, because we'll leave the school and go up toward one of Wright's very earliest projects, the Romeo and Juliet windmill. But as you get an idea, you do have to walk up the hill like this. And there is about a mile of walking along the tour. So we don't necessarily encourage that to people who might need a walker or level flat terrain all the time. There is a way for them to take a bus in between, but it's not as easy to do. And then of course, you'll see that as we're at the actual house, there's a bit of, stairs, and there's not handrails. So it does require at least you to be able to walk somewhat proficiently. So we do encourage people who might have major mobility issues just to be aware that you're going to need to walk through those areas. But really, June is a fantastic time to go because it's so beautiful when we're there. And then of course, they take us into Wright's living room. We typically get to sit and enjoy that for a little while. We will go out to the cemetery where Wright's buried and where Mama Borthwick is buried. And anyway, that's Taliesin. And then we try to do a couple of drive-bys of some other locations. And there's always the opportunity for us to maybe add something or not, depending upon what our itinerary includes. So we want to make sure you see as much of it, but I like the breadth of that trip because it includes several locations that you might not normally go see on your own. So any particular questions or thoughts about what we're going to do for our Taliesin and more trip, or things you might want to know specifically about that trip? You just speak up if you want to. I feel bad not calling on people necessarily.
Oh, you can call on them.
So
Yeah, so Timothy, we stay
Yeah.
at multiple hotels during the stay, is that correct?
So yeah,
Or
that
is it-
trip will have, so it's a little longer trip. We add a day to that one. So we arrived the first night at the hotel in Milwaukee and stay there overnight. We'll have a local speaker from Wisconsin come. I already have an idea who that's going to be. I just have to clear the date with him. He's still checking his calendar, but he's really well known in the Wright world. So one of the things I like about doing these trips is being able to bring in some kind of an expert, if at all possible. The very first time we did it, I think I had, when we did Fallingwater, the first time we had Kim Bixler, who was, wrote a book called Growing Up in a Frank Lloyd Wright House. So we'll do the first night at that hotel. It just lets people get themselves there. And then the second and third nights will be at the Spring Valley Inn in Spring Green. It's just, there's not a convenient place to fly into Spring Green. Milwaukee's a lot better airport because, we get people from all over the country coming with us. And you'd have to transfer to fly into Madison, and mostly you're going to transfer out of Milwaukee or somewhere. So we figure let's go see the Milwaukee stuff. And then that way it lets people get themselves to the Milwaukee hotel. There's a shuttle from the airport to the hotel, which is why we choose that one. And so we'll stay there the first night and then go to Spring Valley Inn for the second 2 nights. And then we return to Milwaukee afterwards to fly back out.
Okay, so you would return to the airport, is that correct?
Yes, we returned to the airport. Now, some people, I think, was it Art and Juanita, did y'all stay there overnight at that airport, at that hotel
Yes.
on the way
yes,
back?
Right.
That's
Just
good.
stayed
Yeah.
an extra day.
Yeah, we stayed an extra day because we were
But
driving back.
yeah, it's right there at the airport. It's very convenient, but we drove, so.
We weren't. there.
I'm trying to remember also, there are a few places we're going to go, but there are other great things in Milwaukee to do. So one of the things that Mom and I have been working on is providing a list of other things in the area, especially for those people who might want to come a day or two earlier and go see a couple things. So the art museum in Milwaukee is pretty good. And that's not on this itinerary this year, but that is a really great location to go to. And that was pretty, we did that this last time, Art and Juanita, because of some scheduling things we had to do. And that was a pretty fantastic building with the unusual array.
Yeah.
But we probably could have found 4 or 5 other, like if you wanted to stay a couple days, either before or after, Susan, you could literally make a longer trip if you wanted to out of that. So we'll give you some ideas of what else is available in the area.
Okay, what time do you start on the 20th?
So the first day,
On the first day, yes.
we, Mom, I think that's like 5 o'clock that we actually gather for dinner and start a presentation. Is that right?
Right, yeah.
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 And then we're usually there a little earlier, so we have the space for an earlier amount of time so that people who are, because not everyone's flight gets in at the same time, or people might have decided to go fly in early and go do a few things. We wanted to be able to get there.
You watch that chocolate cake.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a weird running theme apparently about our tour plans because, I don't want to not have a good amount of food. So there's always more food than you're going to eat. And I don't know how we keep doing that, but I mean,
It's accidental, completely accidental.
I'm sure.
Yes.
And that restaurant after Burnham Block, that was excellent too.
Was that when we went to the Irish place, or where was? Oh
No,
no,
that
that
was
was that like hole in the wall.
The chicken place.
That was actually really good too. Yeah, we try to pick we like to go off of really good local recommendations. So we don't really do chains or anything. We're trying to get to places you might not have got, we don't want someplace you can go at home. I remember I went once to New York City the very first time, and the person I went with was like, well, we need to buy tickets at the ticket booth. So let's eat lunch at this Italian place called Olive Garden in Times Square. And I ate at an Olive Garden in Times Square, and I was so mad the entire time that so we're not doing that on any of these trips.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, that Irish place was very good too. I enjoyed
Yes,
that
it
very
was.
much. The food was really good too.
So we like to have enough of that variety for us. The other place, I didn't even put it in the pictures, we didn't go there on our last trip because of the scheduling stuff we talked about, mostly because the hotel had some problems and we couldn't get into the hotel we really wanted. But we are going to get in the hotel this time because I literally just started booking rooms today, so we know we can get rooms. I always take people when we go, when I take just friends or anybody to Taliesin, I always go just down the street to a place called House on the Rock. I'm going to tell you right now, it is the weirdest place I have ever been in my, Jack, you're shaking your head.
No, I've always heard this and I haven't been there. I've been to Taliesin, but I haven't been to House on the Rock and I would like to go.
So here's the good part. We all have to know that it is not designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. Okay. We just all have to know that because people will say to me all the time, oh, have you gone to his House on the Rock? I'm like, nope, not his. It's so weird. The actual house, it was designed by a man named Alex Jordan. And he once went to Frank Lloyd Wright. And the story goes that he said to Frank Lloyd Wright, I want to work with you and build stuff with you and learn from you. And Frank Lloyd Wright supposedly told him, I wouldn't hire you to build me a chicken coop. So now I don't know how realistic that story is. Alex Jordan was a very weird man. And the house he built, Mom, kind of like a Bond villain lair that surrounds a rock with like carpeted walls and just the strangest stuff inside the actual house.
Anything strange you ever see in your life, it's there times 100.
Well, because then not just the house, then he collected things. So there are rooms and rooms and rooms of enormous collections. Like this man has 400 doll houses. And I don't mean doll houses. I mean, like rich kid on the block has a doll house fully decked out. He's got like 400 of them in one gigantic building. And then the next building has the world's largest carousel in it. And there's not a single horse on the carousel. It's all other animals. There are these machines that play music. I cannot describe to you how weird this place is. I told Mom it was weird. I took her there 2 years ago. She was like, holy cow, this is weirder than I expected. And I told her, I like promised her it was weird. So we take a couple of hours and go there because it is just, it's like one of those roadside attractions that more than lives up to its billing. So I couldn't even possibly oversell it to you how weird it is right now. I was in one part of the building looking at this enormous collection of like cobalt glass, you know, that beautiful blue glass, and it was floor to ceiling blue glass. And it went down one corner and down another, and then it turned into a room. And I walked in to two women washing their hands in the women's bathroom because apparently they just built a collection into the bathroom. So I quickly turned around and got the heck out of there. But
Yeah.
like, a collection of black powder guns where there's 500 or 600 of them. And one of them is basically a false leg with a derringer in it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. The whole thing is crazy, but it's fantastic and fascinating. And so we go there, if only because if you were if you were really within 2 miles of the world's largest ball of twine, I'd take you there, like, right? So, I mean, like, it's a lovely counterpoint to really amazing architecture and then to see the really weird stuff around the corner. So my son hates museums. I took him there once. He didn't go to Taliesin. He didn't care. He was like, I don't like museums. I took him to House on the Rock. It's his favorite. He'll tell you, I only like one museum. It's House on the Rock. I'm like, well, it's not exactly a museum. It's like being in some crazy person's brain, but it's a lot of fun. So I probably did that part of it, but it's a lot of fun that we get to go do that. So that's Taliesin and more. And here's one of the fun things. At the end of this, I'm going to still talk to people, but Robin, we can split out into a separate breakout room. So if anybody wants to go into a room with her, not really into a room, that sounds weird, but if you want to go what they call a virtual room, you can go and ask her a lot more of the logistics questions, like, you know, when do I need to pay and how would we do this and what's availability you have on this and that one. You can ask those questions, and then I can still talk to people about just whatever BS I'd like to do. So works out good that way. The last one we're going to do is we're going to go to Oak Park, Chicago, and more. And I have to tell you, if you want more Frank Lloyd Wright per square inch, this is where we go. Okay. And this one now, Deb, it'll look a little different than the trip that we took because we don't get to stay in a Frank Lloyd Wright house, but they sold it. Do you know, Deb, after we left 2 weeks later, they sold that house. Apparently we did such a bad job of staying there. No, but they
And
did.
we didn't buy it. We should have bought it.
Well, had I known it was even for sale, right? Now, we're gonna see a lot in our, let's see, the Frank Lloyd Wright. This is August 16th through the 19th. We will, again, the same way we've done all the others, we'll fly into one of the airports. You can either go to O'Hare or Midway, but you'll need to make your way to the hotel that we're gonna use. So we'll talk about where that is specifically. And that we're still working out those details because the amount of work, paperwork you have to do to stay at a hotel the first time for a conference center kind of thing is a lot of work. But the places we are definitely going to see will be the home and studio, Frank Lloyd Wright's home and studio. This is the home portion. We'll get to go in that amazing barrel vaulted children's room. This does not do anywhere near justice to what it actually is like to be in there, even though it's a great picture. The studio portion, obviously, with amazing spaces in it. Then we're going to walk. I'm going to do after we do the home and studio, which is about a 2-hour tour. We'll then go from there and take a leisurely walk down a couple of streets in Oak Park. And I lead that conversation, and we see like 12 Frank Lloyd Wright buildings on the way along that walk. And they're all his neighbors, the houses he designed for them, like the Nathaniel G. Moore house that he designed. This was originally an English Tudor, and then it burned down to the first floor windows, and he redid it into this. And we will do some drive-by stops. This is the Winslow house that's in River Forest nearby. And we'll have a couple places that we get to drive by as well. A couple roads where we see 4 or 5 houses. We also get to go into downtown Oak Park, which is a suburb of Chicago, just so you're aware. It's on the Green Line as you go out west. And we'll get to go into Unity Temple. And in fact, we're working out arrangements for me to give a new talk at Unity Temple, and you can all be in the audience, which will be kind of fun if you go with us on that trip. This is such a serene location to sit in Unity Temple, and we'll have time for you to go and just sit there. You don't have to be part of me talking, but you'll have an opportunity to go back and hear me talk if you want. We also then take a bus to go to the Roby House, which is probably Frank Lloyd Wright's most famous, if not his best, prairie style house. I like to show a couple different pictures of it. It's pretty fantastic. And then we'll go see the Rookery building, which I don't have pictures of, but it's a designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. The interior was redesigned by him. I think mostly to pay off a debt that he owed, and he had offices there, and I think he just hadn't paid rent for a while, so they had him renovate. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. There's no record of that, but it's pretty crazy that he did the renovation, and then like a month later moved out. Would be a little weird. You'd renovate a place and then leave. And then we also, I'm still working out the details, but one of the nice parts about me knowing a lot of people who own Frank Lloyd Wright buildings and us being in a town with 40 plus buildings within a 30-minute ride is that I think I have worked out arrangements for us to all go personally visit a private Frank Lloyd Wright house that is not usually on tours of any kind. So our last day will be going out to the northern side of Chicago, going up it's in one of the suburbs, Glencoe area, and seeing a private residence, and then seeing a couple others, and hopefully seeing the Sherman Booth cottage that was recently moved from its location where it was going to be destroyed, and it was moved down the street to become a community center for that area. It won't be open for us to see inside, but we will be able to go visit and see what Frank Lloyd Wright houses outside of Oak Park look like in a subdivision, in the Booth subdivision that was designed by him. So that's another multi-day trip, a little longer than Fall. So Fallingwater is one of those 3-day, 2 nights kind of things, which really, if you go, it's really more like 2 full 24-hour, right? It's one of those things. And then these are all each, 4-day, 3-night things for Oak Park and for Taliesin. It's just a matter of there's so much to see in Oak Park that we have to go a little longer. I'd hate to short anybody not being able to see the sites that are open, meaning the Roby House, which is so fantastic to be able to go through. And they've just done a huge restoration there. Unity Temple just finished 2 or 3 years ago, a $25 million restoration. So we want to go see that. Money has been very well spent. And then of course, Home and Studio is constantly working on things. The Rookery building is wonderful to see. And then we get to spend a little time in downtown Chicago doing that. Now, Chicago is the perfect place. Some of you will know this because I think a few of you are either from there originally or have lived there in your lifetimes. You could spend an extra week in Chicago if you wanted, and I will be glad. We'll definitely be laying out some other things that are going on in the area. So if you get yourself to Chicago, you might want to stay a couple days. That would be my suggestion. And we'll talk about where we're going to drop people off after we finish the last day of tour stuff. So Chicago is the newest thing that we haven't taken a big group to. Any particular questions about our Chicago plans?
I did have, you're going to talk about the hotels where we're going to stay?
So for the Chicago trip?
Chicago, yes.
Well, I know that Robin is still finalizing some of those details.
Okay.
The hotel that we were going to stay in Oak Park is under new management that's called we're closed and not reopening. So it was an older hotel, which was just conveniently located. We really liked the idea, but it looks like we're going to have to be sort of at an airport hotel again, or somewhere at least kind of close to that. But we're still working out those details. So I can't tell you yet where we're staying on those.
Okay.
Because honestly, we kind of want to talk to some people about those hotels before we pick. I don't want to pick a garbage hotel. Like Mom and I have talked about that. We don't want to pick a hotel where, you know, you have to wear a flak jacket to get in and out. Right. So we don't want to have that possibility. So we are going to be more careful with that, but we'll let you know as soon as we have an answer on what those will be. They will be decent hotels. We're not, first of all, we have to pick a hotel that has a conference room and those kind of things. So that immediately levels us up a little bit, and probably we'll stay with the same hotel for the whole trip. At least that's the hope right now, because really it's kind of like a cruise ship. You'd rather just unpack your bags once, right? It's one of the nice parts about doing that trip with Fallingwater that we're only really there 2 nights. It would kind of be unpleasant to have to unpack one night and then pack again the next day and unpack the next day. So if we can stick you in one hotel and stay in one place, and we're going to need a vehicle, we're going to need to bus ourselves around anyway for all the stuff we're going to go to, because we can't stay right in Oak Park and walk around to everything. So that's still being decided, but it should only be one hotel for our Oak Park Chicago trip. We'll keep one hotel the whole time.
Yeah, really, downtown is kind of in between Oak Park and Ruby House.
Yeah.
Okay. Say that again to me, Jack.
So, downtown, I mean, right on the lake, you just go directly south to Ruby House and then directly west to go to Oak Park.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, absolutely. So again, we're still kind of looking at what those are going to be, but we'll have a good solution soon, hopefully.
Are we going to have the opportunity to drive by the Cheney house?
Yeah, that's actually in the Oak Park area that we'll be going to. It's not really convenient enough to walk to the Cheney house from necessarily. We're going to walk down to downtown Oak Park, but we will definitely do a drive-by to a couple locations, and that's definitely one on my list.
Yeah, because it's not real far. We just wouldn't want to walk it.
Yeah.
Just for the different walking abilities of some of the people that go with us, not everyone is ready to do 3 or 4 miles with me. So like, I mean, I would go walk the whole place all day, but I think after you've done a full tour of the home and studio and then gone over to Unity Temple and walked through downtown and had lunch somewhere, once you've added all that stuff, walking too far out would be a bit much. So we'll definitely add that. That'll be on our drive-by list.
I just wanted to add that back in the 70s, I went to the Roby house and I enjoyed it very much. And so I am looking forward. I haven't been back since that time. So I'm looking forward to going there and seeing that. And, you know, it's just I was awed by it then, and I'm sure I'll just be as awed by it now.
Yeah, I'm actually a tour guide there. So I'm there every weekend, every Saturday, but they did a big restoration that was completed in 2019. And so, and I had first gone there in the 1990s and just always thought this would be really nice if it was restored because it wasn't at that time. And so it looks good.
Do they have furniture there now? Do they have a lot of his furniture, or at least?
No, they, up until probably about 6 or 8 months ago, they had the original dining room set in the
I remember
house.
that. I remember
And it
that.
was on loan from the Smart Museum at the University of Chicago. And then after COVID, they took it back. So it's back at the Smart Museum,
Darn.
which is a shame because it really added so much
Oh, yeah.
to the to being where it originally was.
Well, it definitely helped too to get a better sense of that space, right, Jack?
Yeah.
Like he really
Yes.
kind of understood what Wright was going for there. Although I think, you know, the first couple times that I went to Roby House, instead of having that, are they calling it an ingle nook? Is that the space that's there by the fireplace? They just
Yes.
had a couple chairs there to sort of approximate what it looked like, but now they've added that back in. I know the
That's
restoration
correct.
work brought that back.
That's correct.
And that makes a huge difference to your movement through that space. You know,
Yes.
you kind of get that closure until you get into the main
Yep.
space. But I'll tell you, Juanita, even without a lot of the furniture there, and there are some pieces there, but I mean, that's a big part of, you know, saving a building at all is, you know, like, well, a lot of the furniture's disappeared or it's been farmed out places. I know those things will come along eventually. You know, there's lots of fundraising and other stuff that happens, but there is enough there for you to really get a feel for the space. And I mean, the fact that there's as much art glass still there or been replaced, Jack, I know they redid the front door, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So they also give a really good tour there. I don't know that I've had Jack as my tour guide before, but
You have not, so.
but the tour is really well done and they allow their interpreters. Isn't that the word we use now, Jack?
That is correct.
Because Jack
That is
gets to then
correct.
interpret. So our goal, of course, is to figure out how to get Jack to be our interpreter when our group goes.
Mm,
We love it.
They can be arranged.
Good.
Yeah, that's great. We love it. Okay, so I do want to open it up. Does anyone have any particular questions for me? And does anyone want to go? Here's what I'll do. I'm going to click the breakout rooms and I'm going to create a breakout room and it'll let you choose where you want to go. So I am opening a room called room 1. And Mom, if you'll go there now, do you see it on your screen or anything?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you go into that room? You'll click join. I hope that
Okay.
works.
I'm trying to get my mouse to go there. My mouse is, I don't know what it's doing. There it is. Join a breakout room.
And you'll disappear from us.
Hey,
I don't know what everybody else sees on their screen because I'm not,
Just
I have a
says
different version
join a
than you do.
breakout room.
Where do you see that? Here. Oh, okay.
So Mom, are you able to join that breakout? There you are. It says not joined. There you go. She's in the room. So if anybody wants to talk to her about logistics or any of those specific questions that you had, please go join that room with her, room 1. And then,
That's for any of the trips.
yeah, for any of those 3 trips, if you want to chat with her about like logistical stuff, asking specific questions, she can answer any of those questions. And then I'm just going to stay here and chat about anything anybody else wants to talk about. While we, I mean, I don't know what else you want to talk about, but I see it looks like,
Hello.
yes, Deb.
Hello. I have one question. You had talked in the past about doing an Iowa tour. Is that still noodling around somewhere?
Oh, it absolutely is. So Iowa is a fantastic trip that would take us, pardon me, I have a little bit of a tickle that's still going. Iowa would take us to Mason City, Iowa to see the historic Park Inn, and we'd actually look to book it at a time when we can stay there. We'd also be able to see not only the Stockman House, which is a very interesting prairie style house, and an area called Rock Crest Rock Glen, which is not designed by Wright. It was meant to be a group of homes. It was actually designed by people left after he skedaddled to Europe. And we usually get either a walking tour through there, or we can go hopefully visit 1 or 2 houses. I know a few of those homeowners as well. And then we'd also go to Quasqueton, which is the Lowell and Agnes Walter house, also called Cedar Rock. It's a really great public tour that we can take there. And potentially 1 or 2 private Frank Lloyd Wright houses. So that trip is in the works for next calendar year, so 2023. Yeah, that's in that plan. But I am interested in hearing what other trips people are wanting to take.
Yeah, Tim, Juanita and I had signed up for a trip last summer through the Landmark Society in Rochester, New York, and they were going to the complex in Buffalo, Frank Lloyd Wright houses. Plus, they were going to stay at a good hotel there, and they didn't get enough interest.
Really?
So they canceled it. Do you ever consider joining with another group?
I haven't had that conversation with a different group. I will say that, and I don't know how many people they needed to have to put on one of their groups. We typically, one of the differences for what we're doing is the idea that we don't necessarily need 50 people. You know, we're actually we were very comfortable on our first Fallingwater trip with just 24 people. And we kind of felt like that was the upper limit we really wanted to take on a trip again. So yeah, while we could make a lot of money taking 50 people, and you'd still have 50 people shoved on a bus, and that changes restaurants you can go to. So if we do a Buffalo trip in the near future, which we would like to do that potentially in 2023 as well, we would be doing, again, no more than 24 people. So I feel like we could get the interest, and I'm developing some things to get more people interested. I have a YouTube series of YouTube videos coming that are all in like the 10 to 12 minute range that can help bridge some of that and get some more people in. And I'm doing a lot more talks around the country right now, places in the idea of getting more people available to join our group. And then also, as we develop folks like y'all that enjoy going with us places, the idea is that, you know, you're probably not going back to Fallingwater, so we have to come up with some new places to go, right? Like we have to go, okay, we're going to go to this one or that one. So the next two on the horizon really are Iowa, Buffalo, and that's because we're looking for places with concentration.
Yeah.
So the Buffalo trip is really nice because, as you probably saw, the Martin House complex is almost a full city block. There's the main house, the pergola, the garage space, the house for his sister, the gardener's cottage, and then a really interesting, not Frank Lloyd Wright at all, visitor center that was built in the last 20 years. I think maybe 10 or 11. I don't know how long it's been since they started building that. And that's just in one location. Then there's the boathouse that was built on the lake that's after Wright's death, many years later, was meant to be in Wisconsin, and they built it in Buffalo. There's the mausoleum at the cemetery. And then at the Pace Aero Museum, which is a museum of for a motor company, car company.
Nice.
Pace Aeros were very high-end, expensive cars. A gentleman built one of Frank Lloyd Wright's unrealized filling stations, the ones where the hoses for the pumps hang from the ceiling, you know, and he built it inside of his museum. And I think it quintupled their daily visitorship at the museum. So it was a smart move on his part. And so that's a place we would also visit. So you can see how many places you could visit all in one go. If we went to Buffalo, you can see quite a lot all at one time.
It sounded like it was the society that manages the Martin complex had a threshold where they felt it was worth it. So it wasn't necessarily the landmark, it was the society there. And again, I don't know how far it is to go to Rochester to see the Boynton House from Buffalo, but I don't think it's that far. But you know, that's beautiful. I don't know if she opens that up for small groups or not.
Well, the only benefit really is that my really good friend Kim Bixler grew up in that house, and sometimes she can talk Jane, the current owner,
right,
to give a tour at least of the first floor. Her husband is quite ill and is, I think, on the second floor most of the time. So it would depend upon if we arrange that in a particular way. But I never make a promise about a private house that we go to, only because I can't always confirm that we're going to get to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So I try not to make that promise without, you know, I want to give the owners the opportunity to back out if they decide for some reason they're not happy with the idea. Now, Deb can tell you when we did come to Oak Park last time, we had a really great opportunity to see the Winslow house that was almost never available to open, but I can't think of her name. Art and what was Art's wife's name?
Oh, Susan?
Yeah,
Is
Art
it-
and Sue. They were so great to let us bring our small groups in, and that was really wonderful. So
It was wonderful. Yeah,
Wasn't it
they were
pretty
so
good?
gracious and an amazing house.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
So those are the kind of experiences I want to be able to give people. If you go on a trip with me, I've tried to be very respectful of everyone I've ever met about Frank Lloyd Wright, and to make ways that they would be willing to share what they love, because they all love their homes, right? And they want to share it if it's possible. So we try to do what we can. And then it also makes our trip valuable to people to go, well, if I just went on my own, I wouldn't necessarily get into that house, it wouldn't be possible. So we want to offer that value add, so otherwise you could just go on your own. And then, it's really not a reason to go with a tour group unless you just, want somebody else to handle all the details, which we're happy to do too. Now we will get with people like Jack and other people to make sure we get the right food in Chicago. So we'll make sure that we continue our success of having really amazing food and probably too much of it. So any other particular questions before we hang up this call? Because we're getting right at the hour and I don't want to keep anyone longer than an hour. No?
So you're gonna have all the information on your website, so we can sign up, or the next couple of days or something?
Yeah,
If
we
you're-
have.
If you're ready to sign up, I can send you the forms.
Yeah, if you want to fill out the paperwork and then we'll handle the rest of it after that. We will have more details both on Taliesin will be the next one to be published information, the specifics in the next couple of days, probably the next week or so. And then Chicago is after that. And we'll be consulting some experts. Jack, just be ready for the email to come about some specifics in the area to make sure we don't book any place that's too rough and tumble.
Yeah, Chicago's the one I think we're interested in next.
That would be great. Well, we'd love to have you. So, all right. And any last minute things? Otherwise, we're going to thank you all for being here tonight. It was a wonderful spending time with you, everyone here. I mean, some of you are like, oh, there's my friends. We're hanging out, and I hope anybody I haven't met yet, you get to be our friends going forward too. And the fact that you come back means I don't talk too much. So that's helpful at least.
I'm not even going to comment.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Gotta bring
All right.
munchies time.
Well, thanks everyone.
Okay.
And we're going to I recorded this, so I will actually put that recording out in the next couple of days for anybody who missed it. And if you have any questions, just get a hold of Robin or I.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
week, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.